Special, essential, stronger than ever. Barack Obama has become the first American president to address both houses of parliament, hailing a new chapter in his country's relationship with Britain. In a speech soaring with rhetoric about shared values in a world yearning for freedom, he declared the time for leadership was now. This report from our political editor, Gary Gibbon, does contain some flash photography.
State visits are opportunities for kind words and photo calls. Number 10 thinks they don't come better than this. President and Prime Minister serving burgers to British and American military servicemen at a Downing Street barbecue. After lunch, there was an address, the first by a US president, to both Houses of Parliament gathered in Westminster Hall.
I am told that the last three speakers here have been the Pope, Her Majesty the Queen, and Nelson Mandela, which is either a very high bar or the beginning of a very funny joke.
President Obama said that despite the rise of China, now was the time for Britain and the US to take the lead in the world, and that the values of the two countries gave them special strengths.
The example of our two nations says it is possible for people to be united by their ideas instead of divided by their differences. It is possible for hearts to change and old hatreds to pass. That it's possible for the sons and daughters of former colonies to sit here as members of this great parliament, and for the grandson of a Kenyan who served as a cook in the British Army to stand before you as President of the United States.
And while some wilted in the heat of the afternoon, President Obama said that the democracy movement in North Africa and the Middle East proved that ideals Britain and the US promoted were universally shared.
With faith in the promise of tomorrow, let us march straight forward, together, enduring allies, in the cause of a world that is more peaceful, more prosperous, and more just. Thank you very much.
Earlier, the president had talks in Downing Street on the practicalities behind all the rhetoric. The president met David Cameron alone.
One of those must have worked. I've used that line before.
And then Nick Clegg was allowed to join them. On Afghanistan, the two administrations are focused on getting troops out. Their main arguments seem to be more often with their own generals. On Libya, the United States has held back, telling European NATO countries that they should take the lead in their own Mediterranean backyard. At a joint press conference, Barack Obama said dealing with the Gaddafi regime in Libya would not be a quick fix, and people must be patient.
That there may be a false perception that there are a whole bunch of secret, super effective air assets that are in a warehouse somewhere that could just be pulled out and that would somehow immediately solve the situation in Libya. That's not the case. But ultimately, this is going to be a slow, steady process in which we're able to wear down the regime forces.
David Cameron led a recent stocktake on British policy, which triggered the latest intensified bombing of Libyan targets. He said the two men were at one on Libya.
The President and I agree that we should be turning up the heat in Libya. I believe the pressure is on that regime.
A poll for Channel 4 News suggests that British voters trust Barack Obama's judgment on world affairs as passionately as they distrusted George Bush's. Back in 2003, YouGov asked British voters whether they had confidence in President Bush, who was then on his own state visit here. 22% of people said they had confidence in the US president's judgment. Today, 72% have confidence in the US president. Now it's Barack Obama. 8 years ago, 17% polled said they would describe the US president as highly intelligent. With Barack Obama in the White House, that figure's 81%. No wonder David Cameron is trying to bask in the president's glory. But the poll also suggests that the legacy of Iraq still worries people here, and that the country splits down the middle on whether the special relationship should continue. No such doubts about the current US president. And David Cameron will be hoping that a day basking in the president's glory will do him only good with Barack Obama's fan base in Britain.